Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, where, of course, we just finished talking about Toshi and the beginning of his adventure with Kobo, who is going to be a long-standing and extremely fun character to have around.
Kobo the two strings.
Exactly. And then, now, we're going to be talking about Princess Michiko. So, Michiko is interesting because her card art, for some reason, has her with a giant halberd behind her back. And she's never really shown using that like to any full extent in the actual story. It's just cool to see her. And what's funny is until I saw the actual full art of her, I always thought she was just holding a really big sword behind her back for some reason.
But no, it's a halberd.
It's an entire halberd. Like you can see the staff going all the way down and everything. Like she's not hiding anything. She's fully aware. That's why she's smiling.
I'm guessing they just told the artist, just like, okay, I read about Michiko. She's like a warrior princess. Warrior princess.
So, yeah, she was born at the start of the Kami War, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And she has two major friends. And both of her friends are from the wizarding school known as Minamo. So, Minamo is in the blue region of Kamigawa and is basically headed by a bunch of wizards and Soratami, and right above it is where all the Soratami actually live in their Cloud City and all that stuff. So her two friends are named Choryu and Riko. Riko, of course, being an extremely adept archer, and then Choryu being a water wizard, essentially. He's very good with water and ice magic and stuff like that, right?
Are they human or are they Soratamis?
Both of them are human.
Okay.
Now, while all of this is happening, Sharp Ear shows up. Sharp Ear is the brother of Pearl Ear. And Pearl Ear has to leave on, like, basically ambassador business. And before she leaves Sharp Ear in charge of the three kids. Mm-hmm. They're not really kids. Michiko's 20, but you get the idea, right? And so Sharp Ear's in charge of them. And Michiko is not allowed to leave the Aiganjo Castle, because once you go outside of it, it's basically just a war zone. And the only reason that it's safe there is because Konda is there, and Konda has that which was taken. So all of this is happening. Lady Pearl Ear cares a ton for Michiko, essentially like an adopted daughter, because of the fact that she's raised her entire life, right?
We open the story with Pearl Ear telling about Michiko's birth.
Yeah, exactly. So all of this is happening. And then you have the Aki army that are apparently showing up, right?
Aki!
And the Aki army, they find out, are approaching the Kitsune village. Now, the reason they find out that they're approaching the Kitsune village is because, for some reason, Michiko decides, oh, yeah, this blue wizard, Choryu, he's definitely the smartest guy in the room, and not the one that I was left in care of, Sharp Ear. So Michiko follows the rules a lot. Uh-huh. And she's convinced by Choryu and Riko, hey, we should leave and go all the way across Kamigawa to get to the academy. I think they would like to have you there, and you'd learn a lot. You'd have a way of stopping the Kami War. And Michiko's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I should do that. Definitely. Yeah. And Sharp Ear's like, no, you're not. That's a terrible idea. You will die if no one protects you. And so Sharp Ear goes to talk to Choryu specifically, like, hey, you're putting all these thoughts in her head. I want you gone. Choryu responds by basically getting a bunch of water and freezing Sharp Ear in it. Now, he doesn't actually freeze the water. He just makes the water solid. And so Sharp Ear's in suspended animation, covered in water, and very upset. That's happening. Sharp Ear escapes. He acts like he's a foxfire, and he basically will-o-wisps her Michiko back to him, to the Kitsune village, where they should be safe. Only to find out that's where the Aki are approaching. Right?
That's great.
The Kitsune then hold a divination ritual, and they're like, okay, this is weird, but there's just an entire mass of writhing snakes. That must mean you need to go deeper into the jungle and meet the Orochi.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, the Jukai, if you will. And the Orochi are snake people. just so everyone's on the right page. At this point, Wizards of the Coast has not mentioned, like while we're recording this at least, once it's out, obviously we'll already know, but they have not mentioned if it's going to be snake people or Naga, because they redesigned the way the Orochi look to have them like super long serpent tails for some reason, that whole deal. So basically all that's happening, Aki are attacking Kitsune Village, right? And Choryu and Riko eventually reunite with everyone at the village. At the same time, there's an army in Eiganjo that's being led by Captain Nagao. And Nagao says that he's basically looking for the princess. He arrives at the village. He's been sent specifically to bring her back. And then he finds out about the Aki. And says, okay, you know what? We probably need to go deal with all those goblins. They don't anticipate just how many goblins there are. It's insane. And the only reason they're able to get away is because Sharpear takes out a bow and shoots one of the brother Yamazakis through the neck. And it's like, okay, cool. They managed to do all that, but Nagao, the captain, he's mortally wounded. And before they can say goodbye, Pearl Ear and Sharpear, Michiko, and her friends leave the jungle to try and stay alive. At the same time that they just left, Toshi and Kobo are also going through the jungle, through the Jukai forest. And then Toshi's like, whoa, wait, that's weird. Why is there an incredibly attractive looking princess person in the jungle in front of me right now? Kobo, hold my stuff. I have my magic I need to work. And Sharpear's like, no, thank you. It's best if you kept moving. You look like a hobo. And essentially it's really great. The whole interaction between the characters there, because Sharpear is extremely clever and so is Toshi. So the two of them, they're just quipping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the whole time Toshi's trying to like impress Michiko, right?
That's awesome.
While all of this is happening, they're attacked by Orochi. And the Orochi managed to basically poison everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knock them all out. Toshi wakes up and he's like, whoa, where is everybody? He's been left in the jungle on his own. So Toshi wakes up, and the only reason is because the Hyozen tattoo on his hand is burning. So he's immediately thinking, that's not good. One of the, basically means someone in their clan, in their blood oath, has just been killed. And somebody needs to take vengeance. And since there's only 3 of them, and Hijetsugu is very likely not dead, he's very worried for Kobo, because over the journey, he had actually started to like him a lot, because he was honorable in a weird way, but also quiet, so he could talk as much as he wanted.
Uh-huh.
So he goes, and it's raining, and he finds Kobo. And Kobo's strung up between 2 trees with his head up and a pool of water in his mouth. And there's bruises all across his chest from where the Orochi had basically squeezed him to keep him under control. And so Toshi is just filled with this rage. But at the same time, he looks at it and he thinks it's really weird, because he can't believe that the snakes were actually able to kill Kobo. Because Kobo was huge. Even with all the venom that's still in his muscular arms, there's venom oozing out from his body, because he was just that massive of a man. And so he finds out, and he puts out this huge thing on he writes it out essentially in Orochi venom on the tree trunk, that he's basically doing his revenge on all of them. And that that's his declaration of war against the entirety of the Orochi people. So while that's all happening, he goes and he finds out that Michiko is about to get sacrificed to the snake god, the Myojin of Life's Web.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we went from the red Myojin in the last episode to the green Myojin immediately next.
I'm liking seeing all the Myosians.
Yeah, and it's cool because you get to see like how they interact and stuff. So basically that happens, and then we see Toshi kidnap Michiko, knowing that they are going to do what they're going to do. He kidnaps her from the Orochi who had kidnapped her, and he leaves to a defensible position in a cave on a mountain, thinking, okay, if I'm here, everything's going to be fine. And then while that's happening, Konda has a vision, and he sees his daughter. So he sends 3 mounted divisions after her. Now, here's what's cool. The way that Toshi escaped was with a moth.
Huh?
In Kamigawa, their flying mounts are moths. And so Toshi had freed a moth and had like a whole deal set up with a moth that he saved. There were these 3 blocks of basically moth food. And as long as he had those blocks of moth food, he could lay them out and summon the moth to take him where he needed him to go.
We don't look like a reliable channel anymore.
I love that little bit that Toshi knows how, like, he knows a moth. He knows a guy. It's just so good. It's so dumb, but it's so good.
But it's
And so he has, like, he gives them like some of the food, and they everything's done, right? Konda has the vision, remember, about his daughter. He sends some guys after Toshi. The same time this is happening, Michiko's friends escape, following his trail. At the same time that happens, the Orochi are following them and bringing the Myosian with them. And it turns out Hisoka is the guy who worked with the Konda at the beginning. He wanted Choryu to bring Michiko to Minamo. And for some reason, the Sorotami don't like this. Now, while they're in the cave, everyone's getting there, and a kami appears. A fat, bald, blue kami with a huge grin on his face. His name is the Smiling Kami of the Crescent Moon. It turns out that there's a bunch of spirits that specifically represent moon phases, and he's the Crescent Moon. But he says his name is too long. So he wants to be called Mochi. Yes. We're going to end the episode with Mochi showing up.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I promise you that I also hope Ricky's telling the truth, because none of that sounded real. But yeah, go ahead and leave a like if you like the video, and subscribe to catch the rest of this. And hopefully it happened.
Yeah. Mochi.
Moths.